In this video, we're going to walk through problem number 3 on the worksheet that deals with writing an equation for a linear graph. Now, looking at this graph, it really it doesn't make any sense. It has no meaning. There's no words on it. I really don't know what it's supposed to represent. So what I'm going to do as a first step is I'm going to make this graph make sense. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say this y-axis here that's running up and down, I'm going to decide that's measuring degrees. And this is going to be a graph of how a temperature changed. So the y-axis up and down is going to measure degrees, and then left and right, this is going to be hours. So there'll be a temperature change over some period of time. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to figure out how fast the temperature is changing. And I'm interested in a particular period of time here. So I'm going to be interested in how fast the temperature changes from this time until this time. Now I realize it's going to be the same change no matter which 2 points I pick, but still I'm just going to work on these guys in this video. So we'll figure out how fast it's changing. The way we're going to do that is we're going to first determine how much the temperature changed in this period. So we can see that the temperature when we started was right here, was at 2 degrees, let's say. And then it went down 1, 2, it went down 3 degrees. And since it went down, right, 3 degrees, I'm going to indicate that it went down by saying it changed by -3 degrees, right? The temperature dropped 3 degrees. So that tells me how much it changed over this period of time that I'm interested in. Now I want to know, how long did it take for the temperature to change that much? Well, I can see here it changed from, it took 1, 2, 3 hours for that change to happen. Remember, the x-axis, left and right, that tells me time. So in this case, it took 3 hours to drop 3 degrees. So I'll write 3 hours here. All right, so I know how much it changed and how long it took to change. So now I'm going to create a fraction or a ratio that describes how fast the temperature is changing during this period of time. And I'm going to do that by making the numerator how much the temperature changed. And we did that in the step above, right? You can see that we decided that it was going to go down 3 degrees. And the denominator of this fraction or ratio is going to be how long it took to drop those 3 degrees. So it's a -3 degrees over 3 hours. In other words, it dropped 3 degrees every 3 hours. Now I can reduce this, right? Divide the top and bottom by 3 and get -1 over 1, which means it dropped 1 degree, right? 1 degree every hour, every 1 hour. And I could actually further simplify this by just making it a -1. And we'll see why here in just a minute. So this fraction or ratio tells me how fast the temperature is changing. Now I want to find the temperature when t equals 0, in other words, when no time has gone by. So along the x-axis, right, along the x-axis here, I'm trying to find out what was the temperature when x is 0, which is this point right here. And looking up here, I can see the temperature was 2 degrees when the time was equal to 0. So that means I'm going to say it was 2 degrees when the t value, the time value, was 0. So now my last step is I'm going to write the equation. And this equation is going to be in a specific form. Let's do it over here. It's in this form of y equals mx plus b. And to define with this, so this m stands for how fast was the temperature changing. And the b is there to indicate the temperature when the time was equal to 0. Right. So to write this equation, I'm going to write the y equals mx plus b, but I'm going to substitute for the m, I'm going to write how fast it was changing. And remember, up in this step, we had it simplified all the way down to this. So the number that represents how fast it's changing is the -1. I'm going to leave the x. And the b is the temperature when time, or the t, equals 0, which was this guy, right? We knew it was 2 degrees. So that's going to represent b. So now I have this general form, y equals mx plus b equals y equals negative 1x plus 2. Now one more little thing I want to do is when there's a 1 in front of a letter or a variable, we just don't write it. It's just assumed to be there. So I'll change this slightly to say y equals negative x plus 2. That's the equation of this line. Done.